What if there's one strategy that every single successful company ever used? What if there's one unified strategy that you cannot find a successful company that hasn't used this strategy in part of their growth or part of their sustainment or part of their future strategy? And that's strategic partnerships. There is not a successful company that hasn't leveraged some flavor of this strategy to get meteoric growth.
How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
What's up, everyone? It is Shawn from the Tactical Empire. We have another guest with us today, one of the leaders, head honchos inside of the men's mastermind, the inner circle, Callye Keen. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. This is so funny because I try and be like overly hyped up, and I know I was coming in to talk to you, and I always think that you are the most cool, calm, and collected dude in the group. So when you chime in with your insights on someone's questions, I'm like, this dude is such a cool cat. Like, would you say is that kind of like your demeanor in all areas of life? Is that cool, calm, collected, or am I the first person to ever tell you that?
Cool, calm, collected. Yeah, I make a joke it's kind of true. Is like I never was cool, I was never cool, but I think more recently you just stay in your lane and you kind of evolve into this position where then people look at you a different way and you're quote cool. But I've spent my whole life being uncool and kind of doing things. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, I don't know how many young, quote, uncool people we have, but maybe speak to that. I know I was going to take this a different route on, but why don't you speak to that now that you're, a guy building a pretty large business, how that has played into your favor? Is that kind of like a badge of honor? And like, what do you think the most positive aspects of that demeanor is for you?
Yeah, I mean, I have spent the last 25 years in manufacturing and the last maybe 20 years developing products, developed tons of different products. You name an industry, I've made something for it. And I wanted to know how to grow my business. So I went out and started talking to people about, hey, a good idea doesn't mean that it's a good business. And this is how you evolve an idea into a business. And ended up speaking all over the place nationally, a couple international speaking spots, and got sucked into startups. And because I'm in defense manufacturing and physical products, like entering the startup world, I was again this next level of uncool because I'm like, no one does that. But I was also so niche that really quickly I could attract the right kind of people to me, or people that I could work with, because I'm not competing against anybody. Mm-hmm. But traditionally, I'm basically a hireable nerd, right? And so, conventionally cool, no, in the right context, sure, and you look at people giving out advice. I think this goes across anything you want to talk about, fitness or marketing or anything that you see in the business world, for sure. People are giving out advice because they've been successful or they've done something once or twice. And when it comes to, say, developing products or helping someone get funding or going through that cycle of turning an idea into a business, I've done this and helped people hundreds of times. So that's how, before you hit record, you were asking about end hype. And it was like, when I entered this kind of world of online, being cool or marketing or social media, or even the startup world of like venture capital and accelerators, there's just so much puffery going around, or just so much hype. And for people that are watching this, like the logo of End Hype looks like the Supreme logo. One, because I love hype clothes, but also it's just makes it, in my opinion, funnier because it's like Supreme is the hype brand, and turning that against like, the professors that are telling people how to run businesses that they have only ever failed or never run a business in their life, or the VCs that have never grown a business that are telling people how to spend the money. It just goes like down full stack, So.
Well, the thing that blew me away the other week in the inner circle was like, because we were talking about branding and we were talking about personal branding, we were talking about social media, and you stepped forward, was like, hey, like I built this following of, correct me if I'm wrong, 100,000 people on Instagram, and like from all the vanity metrics, that's like holy shit. But I don't want people that listen to our other episodes to be mistaken. It's like at the end of the day, if I have 3,000 followers and I only need 50 customers to reach my goals, I'm super pumped about that. So can you kind of speak to the people that might be out there and, for lack of a better term, grinding and hustling on the content creation to build this personal brand and following, and kind of talk to someone that's been there? And then again, if you want to divulge more of the story, I don't know all the ins and outs, but like you got rid of it. Like you went from that to nothing. So kind of, I'm going to let you speak to it. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Cause it's really easy to get wrapped up in this game. And I'll say from a broader perspective, be careful of who you take advice for, because really good advice isn't necessarily good advice for you, for what you're trying to do. And so this could play into a larger conversation about partnerships and true value, but you only need one relationship to change your life and business. You can meet one person and you could double your income. You could change your entire mindset. You could transform everything about what you're doing with one contact. And I join these different entrepreneur groups and I see what people are doing. And one of the groups, they really espoused, hey, you got to post on the internet. You know, you've got to post on Facebook 3 times a day. You got to post on LinkedIn. You got to hit your Instagram. You got to do all of these things to get your message out there. And I think, sure, why not? I've been putting out content of some kind for forever. I don't know. I first built a website in 1996. This first professional website I got paid to make, right? I've been doing it for a long time. Sure, I'll go with this. And I hired a friend as a photographer and videographer, came in every week. We created content. I built 0.5% top podcasts in the world, most successful podcasts on product development and product-based businesses in the world. Built my Instagram to over 100,000 followers. Did all of these things, and I saw people doing this because they wanted to be coaches, or they wanted to have some kind of program or some thing that they're doing, right? I would be more typified as a consultant or an outside contractor. And I was doing all these things, and all I would get were basically spam or people that wouldn't be qualified to fit into what I was trying to do. And no matter how inexpensive what my offering was, and at a certain point I was like, here's a community, you can join it. I do a live stream every week. It's $50 a month, and this and this and this. And it was still always too expensive. Whereas like my day to day, somebody would pay me literally 1,000 times that a month to work. And so I was asking people, I was like, how are you making money doing this? Because this is wasting a huge amount of my time. This is wasting hours a day. And maybe I'm meeting some qualified people, but the more qualified people, like I just build personal relationships with, or I just help them, or I like volunteer at a local innovation space, or I volunteer as a mentor in a startup program, and I meet other people that are also volunteering, and those people are very successful. And we do projects together, and we build real relationships. And like this is how somebody trusts me to pay me $1 million. But like this Instagram thing's not really working for me. And then and like I had this and this is I think in certain things like this I'm like very naive, because I'm talking to all these people, and person after person, like they weren't making, they wanted to get to 10K a month. I'm like, why would you want to get to 10K? Like what's the goal that's going to happen at 10K a month? And I showed them like, well, this is what my side business does, and this is the numbers, and it's not 10K a month. I'll tell you that. Like, and it blew them away. I just thought that everybody was making money because they were spending all their time building all these things and spending this money. I was like, you're making less money than I pay my videographer. Like I shouldn't play the game that you're trying to play, because your game is is terrible. Like I
Yeah.
think my game might be my game's better for me. Like
Yep. Yeah.
yeah.
So you kind of, I mean, what happened there? You just kind of just shut it down and turned it off.
Yeah,
What did that?
I
What
was
did those
like,
steps look like?
yeah, I was like, I'll delete my Instagram and restart it with the same name. I'm Callye Keen everywhere. I'm really easy to find. You know, fun when I meet an old friend and they're like, "What are you up to?" I'm like, if they really cared, I'm the only person in the world with my name. You can pretty much find me on any platform. It's really easy to find. But yeah, I stopped doing end hype because I got I really just I don't care about e-commerce businesses. I don't find it exciting or difficult or challenging. Um, so I stopped producing a top podcast, and I started a new podcast that's on defense startups. That's on what I do day to day, which is defense innovation, defense manufacturing. And I was like, I'll just do what I do, which is reach out to people I think are interesting, having a conversation with them, see if I can help them and build a relationship with them. And sometimes I do business with them. Sometimes I just meet really cool people, and that'll be my growth method. It's just a business development method, versus like a sales. There's no landing page. There's no like, automation. There's no like, content strategy. Like there's no complexity to it because we're one doing something I'm highly legitimate in. I'm not competing with almost anyone, and I'm doing something that's direct in alignment with like my content is in alignment with how I make money, and how I make money is the thing that I actually am passionate about. So there's no disconnect there. And yeah, that's just a much better, more successful strategy.
Now, I'm not the biggest tech guy in the world, but what I heard there was no AI computer can replace human to human interaction. So I know you're kind of like the strategic business partnership aficionado. So I'm just going to let you run with it, man. Like what has strategic business partnerships done for you, and share as much as you want. And when you talk to other business owners, high achievers, high W2 income earners that still have to build relationships with other people and other businesses, what are your go-to comments, strategies, suggestions to them to allow them to hyper focus on that instead of looking at 20 different strategies like you said you did in the past, which again may get you the vanity metrics on the outside, but they weren't generating the revenue as maybe one really strong strategy may, like this one.
Sure. I mean, Shawn, what if there's one strategy that every single successful company ever used? What if there's one unified strategy that you cannot find a successful company that hasn't used this strategy in part of their growth or part of their sustainment or part of their future strategy? Mm-hmm. And that's strategic partnerships. There is not a successful company that hasn't leveraged some flavor of this strategy to get meteoric growth. And you can look at this on the lowest end. And what's frustrating about commercial brands, people think this is like influencer marketing. We're not talking about marketing. We're talking about balancing two brands or two companies, what they're best at, to collaborate together and then make a third new opportunity in the market. But there are a lot of companies that have boiled this down to like, hey, you have voice and you have an audience and I have the ability to do operations. So let's make a new brand together and let's go to market. So like Prime Energy is an example of that. This is the most simple version of partnerships. Mm-hmm. You see this in the fashion world all the time, the sneaker game all the time. But more famous examples for business nerds would be something like Apple wants to get into the phone market. Well, they needed a bunch of fundamental changes in how the back end of phones work, how it works on the carrier side. So they partnered with AT&T and said, okay, you're going to be the exclusive carrier for the iPhone, but we want all these changes. This is why you're able to read your voicemail, right? You listen to it on the phone. Apple invented all that. They told the carriers, you have to do it our way. We want to change how the world works. And they created a new opportunity, and it's the most successful consumer product launch of all time. They literally changed everything with a completely new value proposition for the market. And what strategic partnerships let you do is move across industries, create really high value combination offers. It allows you to work strategically, right? Instead of from marketing perspective, marketing people, it can mean so many different things. And then you look at strategies and down to tactics. They really have to be tailored for the business, where the business is, how much money they have, tying into it becomes very granular. So like I see people give marketing advice and like broad brush applying it to businesses, where in reality, something like content marketing strategy really is very granular and has to be customized for that specific company. Whereas strategic partnerships, you can just look at it like, what's the one relationship that would change my life in business? And the story I give somebody is like, there's this guy that had an after school basketball camp, and he's like struggling to get funding and struggling to get people in the door, struggling to get kids involved, parents involved. He's like, am I going to have to close this thing? Michael Jordan walks by and says, hey, can we make this Michael Jordan's basketball, after school camp? And can I come here and like teach the kids and be involved in this? And nothing else would matter, right? If they needed more coaches would come. If they needed a COO to help them, a COO would come. If they needed more kids, they've got more kids. Whatever resource that they needed to grow would come on the back of that life-changing relationship.
Yeah.
And so if you look at leverage and we think of high leverage opportunities, really what we need is legitimacy. We need past performance. We need the ability to say, like, in my case, I'll do all the nerd work. I'll do all the work, right? But together we'll take advantage of that leverage, and we'll work together to select that perfect COO. We'll work together on that marketing. We'll work together on the plan, like me and whoever the Michael Jordan of that industry is, right? And so people focus on that they need like that one, they think that they need the COO, or they need the marketing, or they need a little bit of funding, or they need this. They just need a better opportunity. And strategic partnerships allow you to do that into like new markets, totally new opportunities, 100x opportunities, things like that. So
what playground are you playing in most, outside of, like you did mention, going to events, volunteering events, being around other people at in-person events, but what playground are you playing online to help leverage and expose yourself to those communities and those potential people?
Yeah, I mean, there are different entrepreneur groups that you can join. Some of them have they have revenue requirements, or they have role requirements. Funnily enough, some of the groups that I belong to are free, but they're very hard to get into, or they're very inexpensive. Like one group is $1,200 for a lifetime to be a member of. And I think they lose money just on the catered events. But we'll have a small group, and the speakers like exited a $400 million startup. It's like, ask them any question. But to get into that room is also requires to be highly vetted. So
yeah,
I would say volunteering is one of the easiest ways to get involved. Like somebody wants to go speak at a big event and they want to know how. I'm like, the way I did it is I volunteered and said, hey, I can like help put chairs out. I'll help promote it. And then the next month or the next quarter, I'm the one that's speaking. And it's like, oh, how'd you get that gig? It's like, I'll do anything to put myself around the people that I want to be around, because I really just want to talk to the people that are organizing it. I don't even care about the audience, right?
Overall, just being a good dude. I like these strategies that you're coming up with today, meeting people in person and being a good dude.
Yeah. I like my podcast. The new one is not, it's not going to, rip the roof off with stats or anything. But if somebody is interesting, I can just reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to promote what you're doing. This is why I like what you're up to. Open invitation to ever be on the podcast. And I've talked to legitimate billionaires on my show that way. Some really interesting VCs, really interesting tech people. One guy, I could message him right now. He would talk to me. He's on his $3 billion startup. He's just on the show. And, it's like, how do you talk to these people? Well, step one, like I authentically am legitimately talking to like my audience, like my like little tribe of people. So I'm not an outside invader. I have nothing to offer other than to promote them, and I want to get to know them. Actually, that is the only thing. And if the conversation goes well, I'm like, well, now you know what I do. If something looks like a Callye shaped problem, I'm here to help you or answer questions or whatever. And if you can just develop that personal relationship with somebody, like something else will follow. But in general, with strategic partnerships, if you don't know who to contact, the simple rule when I would consult people on how to do this is like, who already has a list of your customers, who already does business with them, because we buy because of people we know, like, and trust, not from people we know, like, and trust. And there's like a long explanation of how it's different, but like, you don't trust the Walton family or Jeff Bezos, but Walmart and Amazon are the biggest businesses in retail right now. But if somebody already is doing business with Walmart, it's easier for me to get an introduction to a buyer and get my product into Walmart, right? So I just when I wanted to sell my products to Google and Amazon and Apple and Meta, I didn't knock on Google's door, which I don't even think that there is a singular physical door to get in there. You just ask like, okay, well, who's already doing business with these people? And like, who can run that channel for me? And what can I do for them? I can make them money. I can make them look good. I can give them unique opportunities. Let me just put a pitch together like that and then go meet those people, the highly leveraged one relationship. And that's a personal example of that one thing for me. But I don't know. People are out there, like they're at trade shows, they're on LinkedIn, they're in boring places, like doing legitimate business. Like,
I want to set up the expectation for people on this strategy is like when you start meeting the right people and start having those conversations and having meetings, like, what is the shortest from point of meeting someone to payoff? What is the shortest timeline you would say that took, and what is the average and what is the longest? Because I want people to have a realistic idea on how big this strategy could pay off, but what that realistic timeline usually is.
Yeah, and this goes into like B2B pipelines are long processes, and doing big deals can require a long time, but there are also longevity to them. So I'm also I'm in tech and I'm in defense tech as well. So both of those things have very long pipelines. And so one of those deals could take 6 months, it could take 2 years, right? There could be significant business along those lines. But fun projects. If people are watching video, like I have, there's a stand I made for Mini Museum. So Jamie, people remember ThinkGeek.com, their employees were from ThinkGeek. Mini Museum raised $3.5 million on Kickstarter, and I approached them with a deal. I said, like, I met him through a speaking engagement. I said, like, your product's awesome, but I can't see it. I'll design a stand for you that lights up and you can see all the components in it, and you can buy it from me for $20 and I'll do all the work. He has a huge channel and he was like, sure. I gave him the prototype and he bought a few thousand of them from me. So it's like that took very short period of time because he sold them for between $30 and $50. So he made a bunch of money and it was zero risk for him.
Yeah.
And he was already in a launch cycle. So it was like very short. Or I did a project with Chris Bathgate. He's the Michael Jordan of like CNC machined sculptures. We made the world's most expensive fidget spinner. Yeah. So a $700 fidget spinner.
Woo!
And I sold those pre-sale. We sold 150,000 of those online. Yeah. And then we did 2 other projects after that. This is a long conversation about how to do like super hype launches, but we did a bunch of projects together. He's a good friend, amazing dude. But like those were shorter time because we're like, I was doing that. I literally built a whole company to show people how to launch e-commerce companies and like documented everything and built content around it. And that's how I knew like I wasn't cut out for this game, because even with that, people were like, but how do I do this? How do I do it? And I'm like, just come on, like, you
Yeah.
know, get serious. But like, those were shorter timetable kind of projects, because I could just write a very simple deal. It's like, hey, I'll pay you a third of every one that we sell. Like, you design it, you help promote it. I'll do all the work. I'll make the thing. I'll do all that, but I'll pay you a third of it. So, I'll write you a check for whatever, $40,000 when we're done.
Low level question here. What is a $700+ fidget spinner made of?
I'll bring one to our meetup.
Let's go. Let's go. Yes, I haven't flipped a fidget spinner in a few years. Look at that. Oh my, look at that thing. That's coming from a sci-fi movie right there.
Yeah.
That's a missile that shoots through a building, curves around the corner, and hits someone in the neck. And look at that. Oh my.
Little custom Ray-Ban style case.
Let's go.
Leather, this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, so this is a good example of transposed value or value-based pricing, is that Chris makes $10, $20, $30,000 sculptures. And so $700 is a very cheap Chris Bathgate sculpture, but a very expensive fidget spinner. So we actually invented our own category called pocket sculptures, and they're just small form factor sculptures that people can carry around. So like $700 was like very inexpensive for the market, but very expensive for how we sold it.
Yeah.
So we got a ton of attention. It's a longer conversation, but it's a fun project, right? It's like, you think this idea of strategic partnerships works if you want to make something fun and build a relationship and get a friend, but it also works if you want to, make something with Lockheed, or you want to make something with Google.
Well,
it scales all the way up.
You made the joke of like people, like you have a whole course in content creation around this whole thing. And then people are like, well, how's it work for me? And it's like, we kind of laugh that off, but like, I'm not building a multi-million-dollar company. And so sometimes, especially when I was younger, it was hard for me to like extract the lessons. And so when you're like saying that, I'm thinking of like the local artists that I've bought art from, right? When I walked into her first art show in a few years, that she put on, she hyped it really well. But I walk in, her most expensive piece, it wasn't crazy. It $2,500, $3,000. And there were a couple pieces like that. Then there were a couple thousand, there were a couple 750s. And then this other wall, she had like 20 little postcard sized pieces of art. And, she didn't spend much time on them, but they kind of looked like the big $2,500 piece. And, they were $20-$30. And like, people walk in, and some people gravitate towards the 2,500s and other people gravitate towards the 30s, and everyone that's buying one feels like they're leaving with value. And even like right now, we're about to launch a Metabolic franchise gym, and they're really big on business partnerships and a Mad Perks program. And one of the examples that another Metabolic did down in Charlotte was they walked over to the smoothie store, one single location. And they said, hey, how can we partner up on a product? And this smoothie store made a Metabolic smoothie, and it's that teal color that their logo is. And so, the Metabolic after class, hey guys, if you're short on time and you want to grab a quick, protein smoothie, go across the street to Berry Smoothies and ask for the Metabolic, and you'll get 10% off. Like something as low level as that. That's how we can take these big principles that Callye uses to build his following, his businesses, and implement them in our what I say is super small businesses. But it's not rocket science. But one thing that I want to end with, Callye, is like, what are you working on? You said you make money doing what you're passionate about, but like, what is that thing that you're kind of fixated on right now, either that you're building or the thing that you're trying to get really, really good at, either in the business or for yourself personally? What's the thing that you really want to put out there? Like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to try and accomplish. And this is why the hell I'm doing it.
Yeah. So for forever, we were behind the scenes. We did services. So I've developed hundreds of products for companies and watched them go from a couple of people to their exits at multiple 8 figures, like low 9 figures. And you just think like, okay, well, if I'm helping develop these products, like, why can't I do that? And so our transition of going from a product development and manufacturing company to truly partnering with these companies and developing our own products. We've been on this tear for year and a half, and we're at that inflection point right now, and I have a very specific goal of growing my main business to $100 million valuation and selling it by the time I'm 50. And so we looked at this and said, here's the clients that were able to do this. What did they do? And then reverse engineer that success of where we are. We have a lot of capabilities and opportunities, resources. And it's like, why not us? Like, why are we stuck doing this for other people when we can do it with other people and we can do it for ourselves? And so that's what I'm really passionate about right now, is that path. And the way that we're doing it is by bringing best of breed commercial technology to defense. So we're increasing the capability and lowering the cost for defense innovation. So chipping away at those like big behemoth companies, the $1,000 hammer, $20,000 toilet companies, and offering a new value proposition. And it's very popular and has a little bit of traction in the market right now. But I'm super passionate about this dual use technology, or transforming commercial technology for the defense market. So
let's do it, brother. Well, I always appreciate your insight, and I believe you will accomplish it. So where can people follow you? Drop the name of your podcast. I believe you're on LinkedIn. If people want to hear more from Callye Keen, from K-Form is the name of the business, but go ahead and drop all your other stuff. Where can they hear more from you?
Yeah, the Startup Defense is my new podcast. So we have innovators and defense leaders on, and we talk about what I'm passionate about, which is dual use technology, bringing new innovation to defense market, national security. But yeah, you follow me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. So
let's go. Callye Keen, CALLYEKEEN. Callye, I appreciate your time today, man. We'll chat soon.
Yeah, thanks, Shawn. Bye.